Chapter 1246, Following His True Feelings, Cowardice. The dark demonic wolf that was attacking Rionette Tinecare seemed to sense something. He slowed down and turned to look at the wraith that had just appeared. His pupils, which already occupied 2/3 of his eyes, had suddenly dilated, as if he caught scent of a familiar but dangerous aura. In the blink of an eye, the wraith raised her arms. The power of wishes in the surrounding area rapidly diminished at an accelerated rate. Godhood began to return, having reached the level of Sequence 4. Under the soil beneath the dark demonic wolf's feet, pale white and illusory arms emerged. They were densely packed like a forest, grabbing onto Cotter's 8 legs, making this miracle invoker feel like he had fallen into a cold and dead silence. He was temporarily unable to break free. Using this opportunity, Rionette Tinecare, who had turned sluggish due to her controlled spirit body threads, turned illusory as she vanished. In the pitch-black pupils of the dark demonic wolf, the blonde Miss Messenger in a dark and complicated long dress that was wrapped with vines suddenly phased into existence and completed the possession process. The actions of the god of wishes instantly stiffened, as if he had degraded from a living creature to a marionette. He attempted to influence Rionette Tinecare's spirit body threads so as to resist the wraith's possession. However, from time to time, he would be interrupted by the pale white arms created by the female wraith. Success eluded him. Klein maintained the looping of their spirit body threads as he slowly raised the staff of the stars, aiming it at the black velvet curtain that had turned into a cloak. He then constructed a scene in his mind. The surrounding darkness suddenly flowed, as if it contained an unimaginable secret. Bit by bit, illusory candles lit up in such an environment, illuminating a long table laid out with flesh and blood. On the 2 sides of the long table, 3 extremely blurry figures were holding up the flesh and blood, ravenously devouring them. In the next second, the 3 figures turned their heads simultaneously and cast their gazes at the translucent black velvet curtain. The crazy suction force emitted by the curtain came to an abrupt halt as it hovered in its original spot. It was as if it had momentarily forgotten who it was, whose side it was on, and what it should do. Feast of Betrayal. Fairy tale magic's Feast of Betrayal. The fairy tale magic that Klein had just used was the Feast of Betrayal that originated from the hermit Catlia. Its effect was to temporarily awaken the items in the target's hands or imbue them with intelligence, allowing them to carry out betrayals. This was a sequence 4 beyond our power, so it couldn't be used under the restrictions of the power of wishes. At the same time, as the staff of the stars' emulated spell was lacking compared to the original spell, as well as the fact that it didn't harbor any ill intentions towards the dark demonic wolf, it only appeared lost and didn't fervently attack its master. And the moment Klein extricated himself from the influence of the curtain, he immediately snapped his fingers, letting the scarlet flames drown him. In an instant, he appeared in a flame beside the dark demonic wolf, wearing a half-top hat and a long black trench coat. The scarlet flame soared up, transforming into a blazing flame that allowed him to easily leap out. He arched his back slightly and raised the staff of stars as he dashed towards the towering demonic wolf. Tab, tab, tab. Klein ran faster and faster, as though transforming into a strong gust of wind. What welcomed him was the dark demonic wolf that barely managed to lift up his front 2 claws that had broken free of the restraints. Pa, pa. Klein waved his black staff to his left and right, accurately hitting the 2 front claws of Cotter, making them pause momentarily. At the same time, he crouched down and slid under the dark demonic wolf's 2 front claws. Amidst the howling winds, Klein turned around in midair and thrust upwards with the staff of the stars. With a poof, the gem-embedded black staff pierced through the dark and short-furred skin, driving deeply into the dark demonic wolf's body. A ludicrous gash tore open. Whoosh! Deep black blood with hints of red gushed out like a flood, spraying a substance with strong corrosive properties that belonged to a mythical creature at Klein. But at that moment, Klein's momentum had brought him flying under the dark demonic wolf. He was preparing to launch his second round of attacks. Suddenly, he heard an intermittent roar. This was from Wraith's possession. Due to the difficulty in moving, what dark demonic wolf Cotter meant was Leo de Ro. Klein's gaze froze as the dark demonic wolf's mocking smile appeared in his mind. He wasn't the only one who could stir the remaining divine powers. He could do so, but so could dark demonic wolf Cotter. Even though this miracle invoker didn't know that wind angel, Leodero, had already become the Lord of Storms, he naturally knew what to do thanks to Klein's demonstration from before. Who wouldn't know how to do a simple imitation? Boom, booms, boom. Silvery white bolts of lightning smote down like gushing water from a water pipe. They rained over the ruins of the ancient castle, completely drowning all the figures. Klein didn't manage to react in time. After hearing the first half of the word, he had already used the powers of Clown to forcefully twist his body around. With a stomp of his right foot, he returned under the dark demonic wolf's body. As for Rionette Tinker, she had jumped onto the gold coin in his pocket. Immediately following that, Klein genuflected and inserted the Staff of the Stars into the ground. Boom, booms, boom. The vast storm tore through everything in its way. By the time the terrifying lightning forest dissipated, the ancient castle that belonged to the dark demonic wolf couldn't even be considered a ruin. There were no traces of it at all, leaving only a charred crater. Within the deep pit, paper figurines were blown up as they were reduced to ashes. Without a sound, a piece of soil that shimmered with the glint of rainbow-colored glass softened. Klein's burnt hand reached out. With the dark demonic wolf suffering the brunt of the damage, he had used paper figurine substitutes and underground slink to barely survive. He could faintly smell the aroma of roasted meat exuding from his body. After returning to the ground, the tattered-clothed Klein turned his gaze and took in the battlefield situation. The remnants of the dark demonic wolf's corpse were scattered everywhere. Its flesh was charred and lifeless. The curtain was curled into a ball, having fallen to the edge of the deep crater, motionless. The power of wishes had been completely wiped out, and godhood had returned to this region. The wraith that had a connection with artificial death had been destroyed. If it were any other Beyonder, they would probably think that the dark demonic wolf had chosen an outcome of mutual destruction. But as a demigod of the seer pathway, and having enjoyed the benefits of a miracle invoker ahead of time, something else flashed across Klein's mind. What is a miracle? A miracle is to be resurrected from the dead. When the dark demonic wolf saw that the situation wasn't right, he didn't hesitate to summon divine punishment in an attempt to kill everyone. Then, he could revive somewhere nearby. I almost used up my last revival. With regards to such matters, Klein had a certain contingency plan. He immediately used a charm engraved with the Fool's patterns and used it as a proxy for praying to Mr. Fool in front of Miss Messenger. Then, he used the summoning of Sephra Castle that had yet to disappear to enter the world above the gray fog with a thought. He then relied on the prayer light's true vision to inspect the surroundings to seek out the resurrected dark demonic wolf. At this moment, Rionette Tinker left the gold coin in Klein's pocket and appeared beside the curtain that was curled into a ball. Her voice was slightly ethereal as she said, "It has a miracle invoker Beyonder characteristic." A miracle invoker's Beyonder characteristic? That's right. The dark demonic wolf possesses one of the 6 Miss Miracle Invoker characteristics under the premise that all the attendants of mysteries are accounted for. Under normal circumstances, the remaining attendant of mysteries Beyonder characteristic also has one set of Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristic. As Miss Messenger spoke, Klein's spiritual intuition also sensed it. After confirming her judgment, he connected it to Will Ossipton's answer. There should be a total of 9 Miracle Invoker Beyonder characteristics, but under the premise that the attendant of mysteries are all filled, the 3 sequence ones would definitely each occupy 1 sequence 2 characteristic. The remaining 6 Miracle Invoker characteristics belong to Zeratul, Antigonus, the Magic Wishing Lamp, Theater with Curtains That Never Draw, The Last Banquet, and the Dark Demonic Wolf, respectively. He had originally hoped to obtain the Dark Demonic Wolf's characteristic, but he hadn't expected that the curtain not only had a sequence 1 attendant of mysteries characteristic, but also a sequence 2 Miracle Invoker characteristic. It was also the one that had disappeared. It looks like the reason for its disappearance was also because of the gray fog. Later on, it was spat out. Do I still seek out the resurrected dark demonic wolf? No, I don't know when the true creator and Ammon will descend. Furthermore, I've already exhausted most of my preparations. The dark demonic wolf is still in perfect condition. He can make a wish, summon, and create miracles. After all, my goal has already been met. As his thoughts raced, Klein looked up and said to Miss Messenger, "I'll put this curtain away." He gave up the thought of chasing after the dark demonic wolf and decided to control the curtain while it was still weak. Rionette Tinker nodded slightly and turned her head, casting her gaze at the charred remains of the dark demonic wolf. The remains immediately emitted a faint glow, either turning into white rabbits or transforming into goats. They were the kind that smelled rich and flavorful. In a hidden area nearby, the dark, short-furred dark demonic wolf quickly took shape. He gave up on his original corpse and immediately made a wish and granted it. He teleported to a distant spot and then ran off without looking back. This god of wishes didn't even consider the loss of the curtain. He didn't choose to revive where he died because he hoped to use the curtain to stall the fellow who was closely related to Evernight. This gave him plenty of time to escape. Since he could survive from the second epoch until now, he had followed his true feelings, cowardice. He refused to be greedy when the situation didn't allow for it. With a flash, the demonic wolf with a gray tuft of hair on his forehead disappeared into the darkness. Klein didn't stop Miss Messenger from venting her anger. As he approached the curtain, he sighed inwardly. An angel is really hard to kill. It's especially so for the seer pathway. As this thought flashed through his mind, and just as he was about to drag his past self out to pick up the curtain, he suddenly felt a familiar aura descend. This aura was dark, foul, and full of degeneration. It immediately made him think of the true creator. The curtain suddenly floated up and turned into a cloak. Inside the cloak, the darkness turned into a whirlpool as it hummed. Mysteries,